Arhar me hearties! In today's Stompy 51 miniature adventure, we are going to look at my Orc Warboss on Wyvern and 6 painted Michael Perry stone trolls. And we'll start off with this Orc Warboss on Wyvern. Let's read a little bit about him before we start, to give a bit of flavour. From a distance, a wyvern swooping and soaring between mountain peaks might be mistaken for a dragon. Up close, there can be no such confusion. Where dragons are haughty and noble creatures, wyverns are filthy, foul-smelling beasts with jagged and dirty teeth protruding from their heavy jaws, making a wyvern the perfect mount for any orc that possesses enough brute force and ignorance to master one. As mounts, wyverns are well equipped for battle. Their pot-bellied bodies, that's a bit, fat shaming there. Their pot-bellied bodies are protected by layers of fat and thick, scaly hides. Their gnarled feet and ragged wings are tipped with savage claws, and their long, lumpy tails end in venomous barbs, which I painted purple and then put some water effect on to make them look a little bit more slivery. I'm not sure if that really came out. A wyvern may only be included in your army as a character's mount. 50 by 100mm base, weapon skill 5, strength 6, initiative 3, attacks 3, 130 points. Wicked claws and venomous tail, and they can fly. Right, so what can I say about this one? I painted it again according to my principle of just get it done, and perfection is the enemy of completion, or whatever the phrase is. And so you'll notice that actually, even in the spirit of that, the head is a Spellcrow pirate orc head. Does he look silly like this? Well, I farmed out the question to a number of people on Facebook to get kind of views. But people on Facebook forums for Warhammer are always so damn supportive. We all know he looks a little bit like a Muppet. But he's still gonna bash your head in. And then you'll see that I did my usual thing with the weapon, keeping it simple, base, darkish metals, and then just dabbing with packaging material. Everything that's not the face or the face of the monster is basically 3 or 4 layers. The body I dry brushed, the wings I dry brushed, and then picked out with 2 or 3 layers the more interesting folds. I started putting in, I got one of the contrast paints, put in some Lamian medium, and started brushing it into these little crags, folds in the wing, because I didn't want to spend all day painting wings. The scales are contrast paint, dry brushed with, and this did take a little bit of time, just doing a little bit of edge highlighting just once along pretty much most of the scales, because I just wanted it to pop a bit. I mean, in this morning light, you can't really see any of that, which actually supports the question of, well, should you really bother? Now, he would be better with some kind of shield in the rules, I think, but I didn't want to obscure the coolness of his gauntlet. And it occurred to me that we can always just say the gauntlet is so big, it counts as a shield. And then I also did something unusual. I don't normally paint horns and claws black. And again, rather than highlighting and highlighting so it just becomes grey, I managed to maintain most of the black and only do very subtle, very dark grey highlights. I've realised when you paint things like wolves or any kind of animal, it really is worth doing that 2-tier camouflage thing they have, whereby, you know, if you look down, they blend into the earth, and if you look up, they blend into the sky, kind of thing. Because it does make them look a lot more natural. So historically, I would have just painted that wolf grey, but actually, I just started mixing in black into the grey more and more, till I got to just black going down a line down the back. And the same, obviously, with the scales, which basically serve that purpose here. Now, I was thinking that maybe I'd get a second one of these and put one of my mounted shamans on it. And then what I could do is paint kind of white signs down the torso with various gawky and mawky magical powers embodied in them. But that's one for the future. When I went through that slightly misconceived period of 3D printed stuff, I did pay someone to print out this STL I bought from, what are they called? Ah yes, Avatars of War. And I'll show you these because I'm a bit torn. As I've mentioned many times, because these things just keep breaking. You see, the animal itself looks all right, but it just lacks the kind of character that the Trishkarden Wyvern possesses. Hang on, how does this work? So, you know, so far so good. And the head looks all right. You see, they could have put in a few kind of gristly lines as part of those horns. But I suppose that looks all right. But what lost me was the warboss. Because look, there's just so little groovy detail, if that's the right word, in there. Because having watched a few videos with tactics, my understanding is same principle with dragons. You can escape from one dragon, but it's pretty hard to escape from two. But anyway, I've got plenty of Orc and Goblin models to paint in the interim, and you may have noticed that I do have something now like 150 metal dwarves that I'm quite gagging to get into, because I only painted about 10 of them. Anyway, let's say something interesting about these fellas before we start. Trolls are hulking creatures whose hunched appearance belies their powerful nature. They can physically adapt to their environment. River trolls, for example, are bloated creatures, but we don't care about them because these are stone trolls, by contrast, are long-limbed brutes with stone-dry cracked hides that can be found wandering the slopes and passes of the old world's many mountain ranges, and no doubt waiting under bridges. Despite their many physical differences, all trolls are dim creatures with indiscriminate appetites and will eat anything from flesh and bone to wood, rocks, and even scrap metal. Not surprisingly, the stomach of a troll contains potent digestive juices which trolls can vomit up onto their enemies. And now that I think about it, over the years, I've seen people with actual painting talent kind of painting kind of like glowing luminosity around the tum-tums to show that they are, through some kind of magical force, regenerating themselves. But that is obviously slightly above me. I try to keep these painted in a way which meant they would actually get painted and wouldn't take months and months. So these were painted in about 2 or 3 hours last weekend and about 4 hours yesterday. And what really gave me a leg up was that I used some kind of Games Workshop blue spray paint. And then I just highlighted, that's the wrong word, I dry brushed the skin with 2 or 3 different layers, and I successfully managed to get rid of most of the paint, so it doesn't look streaky in that way that dry brushing usually does for juniors in the painting profession like me. And then I did some edge highlighting, or layering I suppose is a better word, around the face. And I am actually proud of how I did that, because I think I managed to do it in ways which make these glow. I don't really normally do too much blue. I tend always to be sort of red and yellows and browns. So this was quite special for me to do, and I felt it was important not to get drawn into every single element of their backs. And then most things that were just 2 or 3 layers, except really the faces. I'm quite proud of the eyes, which I painted to look like the adverts of the, in White Dwarf, of the packaging guys in mail order, the mail order trolls. So they're yellow and blue with grey kind of tum-tums. Now, plenty of people do try and escape painting the tum-tums separate to the rest of the body, so I could have just left them blue, but I think it really removes something if you don't include that 2-tone camouflage on animals. It makes them look a lot more like something you might find in the wild. And I gave each of them a little squint just to give them that kind of slightly gnarly, nasty, evil look, which is really quite unfair, because I remember looking up that like 10% of kids do have a squint and it needs to be corrected. But hey, these are just fantasy principles and conventions. I didn't go mad with things like ropes and the wood, which again is just literally 3 layers to keep it simple. Whereas the teeth, for example, because they are part of the enormous character, they got sort of 5 or 6 layers. I think these are Michael Perry sculpts from 1992 when 4th edition came out. And there's so much character in them. You can see they're almost like, is it ravens, or blackbirds who just pick up bits and bobs of shininess, which I think is part of the troll lore in just normal fantasy. So they picked up loads of shiny things, like rings, and I'm not sure if these were supposed to be some kind of, these amulets, if that's the right word, if they were supposed to be interesting stones, like, green stones, whatever. But I thought it would look better if they were just little lumps of gold or copper or bronze or whatever these guys have picked up on their travels. Ooh, shiny. And like they've got, some of them have like feathers that they just picked up just because they looked interesting. When you go into your garden and you just find like some kind of random, huge, rusty nail in the middle of your garden. You think, how in the world did that get there? And the answer is presumably that some bird thought it was interesting and picked it up. The metallics are just mostly weathered. I did manage to restrain myself with blood for the blood god, just using it only in 1 or 2 places just to give these guys a sense of brutality. This guy's got some kind of like bony knobkerry, like Zulu warriors. You can see the sort of meat still on the bone that he's just been munching as he walks along. I'm not sure what these pustules in the stomach were supposed to be, but I painted them red. I don't know, they're just supposed to be kind of like gnarly growths, but they looked more interesting red. I suppose the yellow is the spot colour here, really, but the reds maybe are like a mini spot colour. There was a lot of dry brushing and washing of things like the stones, because I couldn't be bothered to edge highlight. Lots of craggy crevices and edges. I don't know how good these actually are in the game, but I don't think it really matters. One thing I have noticed is if you put a Black Orc boss with reasonable leadership in the middle, in a unit in between 2 troll units, it really negates the issue of them being stupid. I think you have to think about how you rank these up as well. Actually, he looks much more like he should be the centre of attention because he's obviously picked up a large rock and he's about to throw it at someone. I mean, would you really want that advancing towards you? I wouldn't. And to give it a little bit of added kind of colour, I had trouble with this greyish tum-tum and ear colour because it just looked a bit sort of flat, and so I took Gorgrunter Fur, one of the contrast paints, put in some Labia Medium, and then just put it around the edges just to make it look a bit more sort of grimy, and maybe it looked like, you know, there's a bit of earwax and horrible kind of dirt on the ears, because these guys, they're not going to have great ear hygiene, are they? You can't really see them with earbuds, trying to keep everything clean. And my only sculpting complaint against the mighty Michael Perry, who's obviously a tower of our industry, is that the heads look like pumpkins or something. You know, something from Halloween. And I do think that could have been thought through a bit more. If you look at like the artwork of Paul Bonner, he sort of takes the position that you start from a normal animal with the same kind of principle. So a lot of his orcs, when he paints sort of skulls for them, do, to my mind, look a lot like gorilla skulls or something like that. Whereas these look like pumpkins. But anyway, who am I to complain? These are gorgeous, and I bought them when they were re-released by Games Workshop. And now, and I'm sure they will get some games. I mean, I've got a game scheduled for the 4th of October with someone who's had a dwarf army kicking around for a while. And it'll be their first game of Old World. I mean, I've played 3 games, so it'll be the blind leading the blind. But as they say, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, and I'm definitely one-eyed. And what would Warhammer be if there wasn't a little bit of strange puerility? So this is a little snotling of some kind from Wargames Foundry, I think sculpted by Kev Adams. I haven't been sure what to do with him for about 20 years. I bought him originally, maybe about 15, 20 years ago, as like a Blood Bowl snotling. But anyway, I thought it would be deeply appropriate to put him behind there to be ready to receive some troll stool, because he was told by one of the mischievous night goblin shamans that it was very important for some kind of magic potion. And so there he stands, ready to receive, sir, ready, ready. But actually, the joke's on him, because it's not necessary at all. The night goblin shaman is just a bit of a tool, and thought it was funny to tell him that. The fact that occurs to me makes it scandalous. I'm in a position of some authority at work supervising others. And apropos of nothing, I leave you with news that I am never buying any more Games Workshop paints. Ever, ever. I mean, maybe if there was some really special reason to do so. But I'm now on like the 6th or 7th bottle this year that is just dried out. Even if I thought it was sealed, even if I thought I'd pressed it down, you know, these things they have like an inherent design flaw. Yes, people say, oh yes, you just need to press them all down at the end. But to my mind, it's like someone selling a car and saying, yep, we could have put in like a really sensitive brake, given that that's what a car needs for safety reasons. But we've made one where you've got to really slam the brake down, and we've got like double the normal stopping distance of any normal car. And you can just work it out as the consumer. So from now on, I am drop bottle all the way. But anyway, rant over. Keep well, keep safe. Share your thoughts on whether you think he looks like a dumb pirate, or there's something slightly menacing about an orc who's clearly taken out a whole load of Tortuga pirates. Subscribe, please, to keep me getting out there. And see you next time.